good morning, happy Friday, everyone. I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas yesterday. I know I certainly did. If for whatever reason you didn't celebrate Christmas, either because you don't celebrate Christmas or, doesn't coincide with whatever your beliefs are, I hope you had a nice day anyway, because everyone should have a nice day. I mean, listen, says the guy who says that literally at the end of every video, I hope you all have a nice day. And I really do. Listen, whenever I say stuff like that, I really am being serious. I hope you all have a nice day. Because, yeah, it's possible, listen, everyone's going to have a different day. And some people have better days than others. Sure. But that doesn't mean you can't at least try and make the most of whatever your situation is. So, yeah, I'm going to say it again later, so I think it'll keep going. Let's get to my little Muhammad act of kindness. Again, much like on Christmas Eve, I had to do things a little bit differently on Christmas Day. But it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, and maybe someday I'll explain why that is. But my high is I got to see my family yesterday. That was awesome. And my act of kindness was I tried to spread Christmas cheer wherever I went. Listen, for the most part, today was the day for everybody to just lay around in their PJs and either play with presents, eat food, or all of the above, or perhaps even do nothing. So, yeah. That's why people say it's the most wonderful time of the year. Oh, some people, there are some people I know that don't necessarily look forward to this time of year, and I understand why. But if any of you guys know me, then you know I'm always going to try and make the most of whatever's thrown at me. Or I'll just grin, bear it up front, and then when I get home, I'll cry. That's probably what I'll wind up doing. So, let's get to the NFL picks I made yesterday, because I'm pretty sure I know what happened. I think I might be 2-1 on the day, because the Cowboys won, the Lions lost, and the Broncos won, didn't they? Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm 2-1 on the week so far. Good. So, let me show you exactly what it is. 2-1 right there. Now we save our progress before we continue on. Okay. Save number 1. We always double save because we really want to make sure we do it. Okay, so I thought long and hard about how I was going to do this. And full stop, I definitely did want to talk about, Chuggaaconroy doing his Let's Play of Heart Gold and Soul Silver. But unlike when he did Kingdom Hearts, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to be able to pick a certain day of the week to do it. I'll definitely dedicate a video during the week to it for sure. But, there's no set day of the week I'm going to do it. I thought about doing it next Wednesday, but next Wednesday is New Year's Eve, and unfortunately, I really need to dedicate as much time to that video as possible because, listen, it's New Year's Eve. There's a lot to talk about. I need to make NFL picks tomorrow, so I couldn't do that tomorrow. I also need to make NFL picks on Sunday, not to mention Sunday's my birthday. And I need to make NFL picks on Monday as well. I guess the only day I might be able to do it is Tuesday. But as soon as Hot One starts back up again, I'm not going to be able to do it then either. So I guess I'm going to have to pick a random day of the week to do it. But for now, I'll start with today. So, welcome to Chuggaaconroy, LPing, Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I guess if you saw my short yesterday, then you already know who his starter is. And I'm sure there's some of you watching that don't have a clue what Pokemon is, much less what Heart Gold and Soul Silver entails. So, being the gentleman that I am, I will provide you some context. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which are the remakes of Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal that came back in the very late 90s, early 2000s. Your three starters were Chikorita, the grass type, Cyndaquil, fire type, and Totodile, the water type. Now, for the most part, if you go to any Pokemon game nowadays, you can pretty much pick any starter to start off your journey with, and you're going to be okay with whoever you pick. Unfortunately, because Heart Gold and Soul Silver are remakes of, again, the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal, there's actually several problems that still remain when it comes to picking your starter. And unfortunately, that's what Chuggaaconroy is dealing with right now. Because, for those of you who don't know, grass types, they're kind of, I feel, in that middle ground of defensive utility, but also capable of doing some pretty solid offense as well. When Chikorita's line definitely falls more to the former. Which is fine. I mean, give it a few nice moves. And Chuggaaconroy even said so himself, it can learn Sword Stance and Earthquake. And Earthquake is great coverage. Alright, that's cool. As soon as you find the Earthquake TM, you got to use on at that point, Meganium, because it would evolve into Meganium immediately, but, yeah, okay. But for all of the good qualities grass types have, one of their biggest flaws is they're tied with the most amount of weaknesses in any Pokemon in the game. They're tied with Rock. Ironically, I would say that neither one's the worst defensive typing in the game. Ice is. I'll get to that another time, though. Actually, speaking of Ice, that's one of the super effective types against grass. And you know what? If Ice isn't good for plants, you know what also isn't good for plants? Fire. So that's two weaknesses grass types have. As well as poison types, which, makes sense. Poison is the natural enemy of, poison, pollution harms nature. So that's why, grass is weak to poison. Bug types, because, bugs are known to eat a lot of grass. And flying types. I guess the fact that birds use plants to make their nests, I suppose. I honestly don't really know the ramifications as to why flying is weak to grass off the top of my head. Now, those last two types I mentioned, bug and flying, those are, technically flying's the first gym and bug type is the second gym, respectively, but those are the first two gyms. And Chuggaaconroy picked the starter where it has the most natural weakness against both of them. Now, granted, this isn't unheard of. In Red, Blue, Yellow, actually just Red and Blue, and Fire, Red, Leaf, Green, if you pick Charmander, you have a similar problem. Because Charmander, being a fire type, is weak to Rock, which was the first gym, and Water, which is the second gym. However, this is actually worse. Because at least if you pick Charmander in Red, Blue, and then Fire, Red, Leaf, Green, there are ways Charmander's move pool is solid enough where you might be able to get your way out of a bind if you had to. Not to mention, as a Fire, Red, Leaf, Green, they gave it the move Metal Claw, which, now it can fight rock types effectively. The Chikorita line doesn't have any of those things. Like, its move pool consists of, by the time it's fully evolved into Meganium, its move pool consists of grass-type moves. It does learn Poison Powder, so I guess that's one Poison-type move it learns. Normal-type moves such as Return and Body Slam. I mentioned Swords Dance and Earthquake earlier. With the exception of maybe that last part, that's not really a lot. And even if by some miracle you actually had a Chikorita, or by that point possibly a Bayleaf that had Earthquake on it, it wouldn't do good against either of those first two gyms anyway, because flying types are immune to ground attacks, and bug resist ground. So, yeah. Needless to say, if you pick Chikorita, you're kind of in a bind. I mean, the only other good moves the Chikorita line learns are Reflect and Light Screen, which does reduce the damage from physical and special attacks, respectively. I mean, yes, the Chikorita line is definitely more of defensive utility than anything. But in a game where the point of winning is battling, essentially a monster that can fit in your pocket, hence the term Pokemon, and you got to bring their HP down to 0 by any means necessary. I mean, listen, Chikorita's just not it, I would have said it's not him, but Chikorita can be male or female. Chuggaaconroy's Chikorita is a male. He called it Nettle, which is actually a plant that's actually kind of poisonous, but it can be used to make tea or something. Okay. So at that point, I'm like, okay, what? Chuggaaconroy better get himself a good team to build around that. Because, again, those first two gyms are going to be a nightmare for him otherwise. Okay. So how do you get around that? You get Geodude. I mean, yeah. That's deceptively brilliant. I never would have thought he would use it. I mean, we're still really early in this Let's Play for him to for us to figure out what his full team is going to be. So the fact that 2 episodes in, he already has 2 of his team of 6. Don't worry, it's not going to be that consistent, I assure you. But it is interesting, because I mentioned earlier that rock types, along with grass types, are tied with the most amount of weaknesses in the game. In rock's case, they're weak to water, ground, fighting, grass, and fighting. But you know what rock is actually super effective against? Flying and bug. Making the Geodude line a perfect compatible partner with Chikorita. So, yeah. That's brilliant. That's genius even. On top of that, Chuggaaconroy was actually being smart and looked for a Geodude until he got one with the Rock Head ability. For those of you who don't know, Geodude has 2 abilities. Obviously, you can only have one at a time, but it can have one of 2 abilities. The first is Sturdy, which prevents you from being hit with one-hit KO moves, like Sheer Cold, Fissure, Guillotine, Horn Drill, those moves. Now, in Generation 5, which is after Heart Gold, Soul Silver, so Black and White and Black 2 and White 2, Sturdy got a huge buff. And now a Pokemon with the Sturdy ability will never fall to 0 damage if hit with a one-hit KO move at full HP. Basically, if you have full HP and there was a move that was going to knock you out in one hit, you survive with 1 HP. Sturdy ability. Basically, it became a built-in focus sash. Of course, this is Generation 4. That buff was not introduced yet, so your only other option for Geodude is the Rock Head ability, which prevents damage from recoil moves, which is actually the idea for a short I have coming up, so stay tuned. But Geodude, the Geodude line can learn both Takedown and Double Edge, two moves that cause recoil damage. Recoil damage obviously being it damages you along with the Pokemon you're attacking. So there you go. It knows recoil moves. So I suspect Double Edge will be on his hopefully Golem's final moveset. Which actually reminds me, at this point in the game, I said earlier that it's really early to try and guess what Chuggaaconroy's full team of 6 is going to be. But in all of his Pokemon playthroughs, of all of them, he's never used a Golem, he's never used an Alakazam, he's never used a Machamp, and he's never used a Gengar. All 4 of those Pokemon you can actually get throughout your journey in the Johto region, Heart Gold, Soul Silver. And I'm not kidding when I tell you that when it comes through a single playthrough, like you're just playing through the game as is, those 4 Pokemon are utterly game-breaking. I mean, if we're talking like competitively, that's an entirely different story. And yeah, Golem, I would say, is technically the worst of those 4. But if we're just doing a single Pokemon playthrough of like the main story, they're all broken. In fact, I'll never forget this. As you guys know, I watch Braid Scratch commentaries, and I remember they did commentary on Fire Red, Leaf Green. I think they played Leaf Green. And Johnny, who took over for playing, had both Alakazam and Golem as the final 2 Pokemon on his team. And for those of you who don't know, those 4 Pokemon, Golem, Alakazam, Machamp, Gengar, you can only get them if you evolve them from their pre-evolutions via trade evolution. Meaning you got to trade with somebody to get them. Which incentivized, obviously, being friends with people. Or if you were a single loser like me, just getting yourself another game and another Game Boy or Nintendo DS console. Anyway, when Johnny got Alakazam in the commentary of Leaf Green, he's like, ladies and gentlemen, I have now beaten the game. And when he got Gold, he's like, ladies and gentlemen, I have now beaten the game twofold. That's how game-breaking those Pokemon are. And Chuggaaconroy is going to have at least one of them on his team. And considering that you need a team of 6, at this point in the game, it's very safe for people to speculate on the fact that all 4 of those Pokemon could be on Chuggaaconroy's final team of 6. He's not going to do that, though. But at this point, we're allowed to. I mean, we don't know what he's going to do yet. So if anyone wanted to guess that, yeah, Chuggaaconroy's final team will consist of Meganium, Golem, Alakazam, Machamp, and Gengar, sure. Which... yeah, I know I said he probably wouldn't do that, but remember, he picked Chikorita as his starter. You cannot afford to leave any possible option off of the table. In fact, there's a couple very special Pokemon that he'll be able to get based on either the day of the week or at what point in the game he's at, that you could also speculate he could use, which are totally optional to use. And because, again, he picked Chikorita, no option can be left off the table. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I kind of have an idea of what he'll do. He certainly, I mean, again, like, given how, shoot, I haven't even talked about the Pokewalker yet, have I? There's totally a bunch of Pokemon you get if you use the Pokewalker. Which, if you don't know, when Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, and I think I said this the other day, it came with what was essentially a very good, and actually one of the most accurate step counters of all time. Seriously, like, there were literally college universities that ran tests on how effective the Pokewalker is as a step counter, and it's like one of the most accurate things in the world. Like, still. Which is crazy how effective for its time it was. And if you can imagine, the more steps you use on it, the better Pokemon you can find using it. So, if anyone played the original Gold and Silver, then you know that as great as Johto's Pokedex was, you actually really couldn't get a lot of them until like the post game. With that Pokewalker though, you can get them a lot sooner. And I wouldn't be surprised if Chuggaaconroy decides to do that for this. And he could. I mean, at this point in the story, in the game, nothing's off the table. Again, if Chuggaaconroy wanted composed of a team where 4 of his 6 Pokemon are those trait evolutions I just mentioned, he could do that. If he's somehow able to get, a Metal Coat, he could trade for an Onyx or a Scyther to get Steelix and Sizzle, respectively. I mean, they're honest. And you know what? The headbutt mechanic they added in Gold and Silver. They brought that back in Heart Gold and Soul Silver too. Teach a Pokemon headbutt a certain type of tree, bam, you can get yourself a Pokemon that way. And I do believe it's actually a lot easier to get Heracross this way, which is another Pokemon Chuggaaconroy's never used, which can also be compatible with the Chikorita line. Man. I mean, in picking Chikorita, Chuggaaconroy, while making the game effectively harder for himself, has also given him the most amount of options you could potentially have for a team of 6. I mean, I don't know if that's by design or by chance, or if Chuggaaconroy is actually playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers, but I mean, bravo. Bravo, Chuggaaconroy. It's definitely going to be interesting, I'll say that. I hope you like this video. If you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow on social media. As always, I'm very humble. This video for all of you guys watching your video. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Friday. Oh, happy Friday, everyone. And remember, if you guys want to talk channels, we're here to let you always be back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.